Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are getting closer to the very end of October of 2024. Before November rolls in, by the way, we know that there's going to be a lot of announcements by the Walt Disney Company, by, of course, CEO Bob Iger, more about his cost-cutting measures, his cost-cutting strategies, so to speak, that is going to impact nearly every single division, such as Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, and among others out there, and basically, it's going to bleed into 2025 and beyond. Now, we already know that there's been a lot of things going on right now with Lucasfilm, which I will argue is the worst division over at the Disney Company. However, what's really intriguing here has a lot more to do with actress Jodie Turner-Smith of the Acolyte series, really taking her anger out on the fans. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, like I said before earlier, a couple of days ago, there was one spin-off project remaining on the roster of Star Wars projects that were related to the Acolyte series that was going to expand the Witches of Brendok, going into their origin tales, such as Mother Anastasia and Mother Coral. And once, of course, Jodie Turner-Smith made those comments about Disney and the actual Star Wars fans and got kicked off that project, and then that project got cancelled, it's been nothing more than a downward spiral over at Lucasfilm. Now, focusing on Turner-Smith, we already know that she is just as bad as Amanda Stenberg, who surprisingly has been quite quiet in recent weeks, but we already know that Leslye Headland tried to make a comeback about her overall anger toward the fans, her overall issues with the Star Wars fandom, and it's not a big shocker there as well. However, with the Walt Disney Company already going through multiple challenges for all of their divisions, as well as an ongoing lawsuit with Elon Musk and Gina Carano, one monumental development going on now involves more to do with actress Jodie Turner-Smith lashing out toward the public after her recent firing from Lucasfilm and multiple Star Wars projects that were going to expand the Acolyte series. Now, Turner-Smith delivered the following after her fallout with Lucasfilm. I just think that we are dealing with an excessive amount of misogyny and sexism in this industry, and it's just appalling that so many studios fall for that sort of noise. That is always and always will be a minority, because just like my peers, I do agree that there lies a silent majority of fans for projects that are supposedly controversial or held supposed criticism. We are dealing with a ton of bigotry in 2024, and it is 2024 after all. We need more female empowerment in both film and television, and to see studios strip away that opportunity sometimes just because of ratings, I think goes to show you that they aren't really for the cause. They are just for the finances, and it's disgraceful for studios to act in such a terrible way toward those like myself. I would definitely say I identify as a feminist and fully support my vision. I mean, what we did with The Acolyte was revolutionary behind what Mr. Lucas had done with his films. We really wanted to present female representation and especially the LGBTQ community in a show as massive as this by Leslye, and we did everything that we could. But more often than not, you have to deal with studios who fall into that trap, you know? That trap of listening to grown adults crying about fictional stories, supporting women, and the like. It's just offensive and childish, and it needs to stop. I would have loved to have held a future at Lucasfilm and to do all these great things with Leslye, but it just didn't work out, sadly, because this community is full of toxicity and bigotry. It's a tough obstacle to get through because they tend to be and can be very loud to make themselves appear like they are the majority. I mean, just look at what they did with the reviews and just dropping all those negatives that outperform the positives in an invalid type of way to influence the studio's thoughts about our creation. Now guys, before I get to the next thing that Turner-Smith spews about the fans, her getting let go from Lucasfilm and getting the boot basically from all these different projects that we're going to dive into this, like I said earlier, this quote-unquote Acolyte verse by Leslye Headland and Kathleen Kennedy. This is where things get interesting. Now, the fact that she keeps on saying there's a lot of bigotry and toxicity in the Star Wars fandom, I don't believe so at all. Now, sure, you're going to have a very, very small percentage where that is the case, a very minute percentage. But in the end, I think a lot of that is coming from passionate fans that are trying to defend what they love and what they grew up with from the 1970s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. different generations that grew up with these things that George Lucas put out there that really brought their friends and families together. And that's basically why you have a lot of passionate fans speaking up with their overall view about what happened to this brand. Now, sadly, it has gotten to a point where you have a lot of apathy in the Star Wars fandom. You have a lot of fans that just don't care anymore, and I am one of those. I really have checked out completely when it comes to feeling any kind of excitement or looking forward to anything that they have in the roster over at Lucasfilm, because let's face it, there really isn't much. The Mandalorian and Grogu, you could maybe say that's one thing, and even that I'm kind of so-so on. But there's really nothing there at Lucasfilm going on right now, especially the fact that there's a lot of projects being put on hold, and rightfully so, by the way, one of which being the Rey Skywalker movie, which is on hold and most likely will be cancelled. Don't be too surprised. Now, she goes on to conclude, it's just so crazy that it's about our creation. It's just so crazy that I really do hope someday that these same so-called fans of Star Wars broaden their horizons to realize that characters like Mother Anastasia were long overdue in a story like The Acolyte, and others like May, Osha, and Mother Coral. They were all fantastic and presented themselves as a true evolution of the Force, far beyond what Mr. Lucas ever did in the prequels, and that is something to be proud of. That is a true milestone that Leslye reached to accomplish something special. But thankfully, I am getting many great offers for different brands that will expand the types of things I believe in, so perhaps there will be hope in those places. Now guys, about that last pointer, I believe that she's alluding to the fact that she will be joining Star Trek, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that is a development going on right now. But what's interesting about Jodie Turner-Smith is the fact that she is not only blasting the studios for what happened internally between herself, the Walt Disney Company, Lucasfilm, but also toward the fans. And she is in constant freefall mode. It seems like she doesn't know how to cope with the fact that the majority, and yes it is a majority, of the general public, whether you are a fan or not of the Acolyte series, whether you're not even a fan or not of Star Wars, basically this thing is universally rejected. I know a lot of non-fans of this franchise that decided to say, hey, let me check out this thing, let me see if I can get into this brand. And they were just repulsed by it. They thought it was the worst thing that they ever saw in television, right next to the final season of Game of Thrones, if not worse. And so, you have a lot of things like that, right? We have a lot of other things related to Leslye Headland and all the crazy things that she said about different fandoms, especially with the Star Wars community. It's not a big surprise that this is how Jodie Turner-Smith is acting, and how at the end of the day, you have those like Amandla Stenberg who are basically the same. The way that they speak, the way that they say things about the fans, the way that they say things about this community, it's all robotic speaking. They all talk in a very similar pattern with similar words. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this ongoing situation at Lucasfilm below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.